A dangerous new substance called hyper has hit the streets of South Korea. It's said to cause severe disorientation and in extreme cases, sudden death. But despite the risks, it's spreading like wildfire. Meanwhile, Seok-do, having recently cracked down on the Harbin crime lord Jang Chen and the Vietnamese gang boss Kang Hae-sang, was finally enjoying a bit of peace and quiet. But trouble never stays quiet for long. At a Korean port, members of the Japanese Yakuza's Ichijo clan secretly partnered with Korean narcotics officer Sung Cheol. Together, they hijacked a 20-pound batch of this new hyperstimulant worth over 30 billion won and eliminated a fellow officer who caught wind of their scheme. To keep things under wraps, Sung Cheol brutally silenced him and warned his Japanese partner Tomo to stay sharp. Back in the city, Seok-do was en route to a reported jumper case when he ran into a group of thugs brawling in public and roughing up a security guard. Without hesitation, he stepped in. One punk mouth-off Seok-do shut him up with a flurry of punches. Two more tried to avenge their friend, only to be put straight to sleep. When another pulled a knife, Seok-do dropped him instantly, drawing applause from the crowd. After cleaning up that mess, Seok-do finally reached the scene. According to reports, a young woman had supposedly jumped to her death, but forensic tests revealed something suspicious. Her system was loaded with illicit substances. It looked less like a suicide and more like an overdose, or worse, murder. Digging deeper, police tracked down the victim's friend, who revealed that the two had taken something given to them at a club by a Japanese-Korean man. Seok-do realized this wasn't just a tragic accident, it was part of something much bigger. He decided to investigate it himself. At the club, Seok-do made his way through the crowd and tried heading upstairs. A bouncer thought he could stop him with brute force and even slapped him. Bad move. Seok-do knocked him out cold. Upstairs, he found two men making a shady exchange. He quietly followed them into a private room, where partiers were deep in the high. They mistook Seok-do for a waiter until he whipped out his phone and started recording. One man got aggressive, grabbing a bottle to attack, but Seok-do flattened him. The bouncer he'd just knocked out came charging back and only to get dropped again. When a henchman tried to play hero, Seok-do laid him out too. Then he spotted the club owner dancing to Gangnam Style and hauled him back to the station for questioning. Elsewhere, Sung Cheol and Tomo met a potential distributor in a private suite. Despite knowing the product's dark history, the woman didn't flinch. It was cheaper than the Japanese version, more profit for her. She agreed to work with them. Back at the station, Seok-do grilled the club owner, who still didn't know who he was dealing with and had the nerve to yell. Seok-do's team used their usual persuasion methods to make him talk. Moments later, the owner gave in, revealing that a Japanese-Korean man named Hiroshi from Incheon was supplying him and that a local bar owner was involved too. Seok-do sent his crew to find Hiroshi while he personally checked out the bar. At the bar, a sleazy guy made a move on him. Another knockout. Behind the counter, Seok-do uncovered a stash bingo. Interrogating the bar owner confirmed Hiroshi was her supplier. And yes, he was tied to the Japanese underworld. Meanwhile, Seok-do's crew tracked down Hiroshi's hideout, but Hiroshi and his crew were riding high literally and fought back with wild energy.
Oh, 깜짝이야!
The cops struggled to take them down, only winning with tasers. Inside, they found the massive stash, 20 kilograms of illegal product. But as they prepared to return to HQ, a black SUV rammed into them out of nowhere. The entire team was knocked unconscious. A group of masked men seized the drugs, took out Hiroshi, and destroyed all the evidence at a repair shop, including their gloves and clothes. When the leader removed his mask, it was Sung Cheol. His crew headed straight to the drop-off point, slapping down anyone in their way. They questioned Tomo, how did the cops find the drugs? Luckily, they had Hiroshi under surveillance, or this whole operation would have collapsed. Before leaving, they ordered the product repackaged for distribution. Back at the hospital, Seok-do's men regained consciousness, but they couldn't ID the attackers. However, they did find a police-issued firearm in Hiroshi's apartment. A narcotics officer recognized it immediately. It belonged to their missing team leader. That led Seok-do to the narcotics division for answers. He waited, and finally, Their commanding officer walked in. It was Sung Cheol. After a quick but friendly exchange of greetings, Seok-do asked Sung Cheol if he had any intel on the Japanese gang that recently popped up, but Sung Cheol said it was classified. Seok-do didn't expect him to shut him down so bluntly. Just as he was about to leave, Seok-do turned back and asked if Sung Cheol had any updates on the missing task force leader, Young Jaeun-sik. The moment the name was mentioned, Sung Cheol's face froze. One of his men jumped in to smooth things over, but his body language said otherwise. He was lying. Sung Cheol then snapped back, telling Seok-do to mind his own business and stay out of cases that didn't concern him. That reaction told Seok-do all he needed to know: something was definitely off. But without solid evidence, he had no choice but to leave. He and his team decided to follow a different lead. At a used car lot, a BMW rolled out, honking nonstop at Seok-do. When Seok-do didn't move, a guy named Cherry jumped out, ready to throw hands.
진짜. 야, 너 그러다 혼난다.
하지마! 선수가 일반인 때리면...
Seok-do casually sent him to sleep with one clean punch. His girlfriend screamed in panic, but Seok-do calmly reassured her, "Don't worry, I'll wake him up later." Inside the building, the team was stunned to find out this goofy guy was actually an informant for the Baisha gang, who also happened to run a nightclub and sell used cars. They grilled him about any Japanese gang members showing up at his club. Cherry pulled out his phone and showed them a photo. The guy's name? Tomo, a Japanese Korean who showed up weekly to party hard. That was enough for Seok-do. He brought Cherry along to find Tomo. Cut to the Ichijo clan boss making his entrance. Everyone along the corridor bowed as he passed. Pulling out his phone, he sneered, "Tomo's been messing around in Korea, trying to sell my product behind my back." He told his enforcer Ricky to handle it. Meanwhile, at a Korean port, Ricky had already landed and was driving straight to the local gang's base to track Tomo down. At the same time, Sung Cheol was supposed to make the big exchange, but Tomo hadn't shown up with the product. Over the phone, Tomo explained that one of his men got cold feet and leaked everything to Japan. Now that Ricky was in Korea, he had no choice but to run with the stash. Sung Cheol, clearly caught off guard, nervously asked for 2 more days to deliver the goods. Back at Tomo's hideout, his crew was frantically packing, trying to get out before Ricky arrived, but screams rang out before they even finished. Ricky had arrived, wielding a katana with terrifying precision. He cut through Tomo's men like a blade through paper, fast, brutal, unstoppable. But Tomo had already slipped away with the product, forcing Ricky's crew to hunt him down elsewhere. Tomo fled to a hotel, trying to cash in and vanish, but Ricky and his men were faster. As soon as Tomo stepped outside, they were already waiting for him. Meanwhile, Seok-do stormed into Cherry's nightclub and found one of Tomo's men, Yeon-ho.
아, 이 새끼들 말을 못 알아듣지.
The underlings tried to defend him, but Seok-do's signature naptime punches dropped them in seconds. Only Yeon-ho was left, and Seok-do didn't hold back 2 clean hits, and the guy nearly coughed up his intestines. After getting a lead from Yeon-ho, Seok-do headed straight to Tomo's hotel just in time to run into Ricky, who had already finished his job. As the 2 cars passed, Seok-do immediately sensed something off. Without hesitation, he reversed and blocked Ricky's path. A fight broke out instantly. Seok-do took down the crew with ease, but Ricky wasn't playing fair. He jumped back in the car and rammed straight into Seok-do. To protect his teammate, Seok-do took the full hit and was left groaning on the pavement, helplessly watching Ricky drive away. Ricky dragged Tomo to a port and demanded to know where the stash was. Tomo, still thinking he had leverage, acted cocky, figuring Ricky wouldn't dare kill the guy holding the goods. Big mistake. He ended Tomo right there. The next morning, Sun Cheol and his men found Tomo's body on the shore. Furious, they tracked down the snitch who'd leaked info to the Japanese gang and interrogated him, but he didn't know where the drugs were either, only that Ricky had taken out Tomo, so Sun Cheol let him go, using him as bait to trace Ricky's location. Back on Seok-do's side, after losing Ricky, he returned to question Yeon-ho. The room was too dark, so he asked for the lights.
아니 야 이거 꺼. 정신 풀렸는데?
어디 갔어? 야야.
Cue the awkward silence. Once the lights were on, Seok-do, regaining his dignity, went full interrogation mode. He asked who had attacked the police team. Yeon-ho, terrified, cracked almost instantly. He said it wasn't the Japanese gang, it was a third party. He didn't know who, but they were working with Tomo to steal the product from the Ichijo clan and Ricky had been sent to clean it up. Meanwhile, Sun Cheol's men were already tearing apart Tomo's house looking for the drugs, only to run into Ricky's crew. Ricky didn't hesitate, he took him out. The next day, when Sun Cheol saw what happened to his men, he called the Ichijo boss directly, demanding answers and threatening retaliation, but the Yakuza boss didn't flinch. He coldly warned that Sun Cheol's days were numbered. As the deal deadline loomed, Sun Cheol and his right-hand man raced to the Korean-Japanese broker to buy more time, but when they showed up empty-handed, the bald guy lost it, slapped Sun Cheol across the face. Already on edge, Sun Cheol snapped. He grabbed a wrench and took him out on the spot. He spared the woman, though she was the buyer. Shaken but trying to keep it together, the woman agreed to give him more time. Seok-do soon arrived at the scene and identified the dead body, one of Sun Cheol's men. At that point, it became clear the third party was Sun Cheol himself. Right then, Sun Cheol was in his office destroying evidence. Seok-do arrived, asking to speak with him. One of the officers, pretending everything was normal, said the chief wasn't in, but Seok-do wasn't buying it. He asked directly, "One of your men died yesterday in Tomo's apartment. Were you looking for the stash?" Things got heated fast, but with no sign of Sun Cheol, Seok-do backed off for now. He took Yeon-ho and kept searching. In the car, Yeon-ho suddenly remembered Tomo had been running a yacht business. Maybe the drugs were hidden there. After a series of stops, they finally located the stash underwater, 20 full kilos. They brought it to Cherry and had him bait Sun Cheol with a message. At first, Sun Cheol pretended not to know what Cherry was talking about, but after Cherry sent a selfie as proof, Sun Cheol took the bait and set up a deal telling Cherry to bring the goods. But behind the scenes, Sun Cheol tipped off Ricky and his crew, setting a trap. When Cherry arrived, he realized something was wrong. Sun Cheol wasn't there. He panicked and called Seok-do, but before Seok-do could intervene, a thug blindsided him with a club. When that didn't work, they hit him even harder, knocking him out cold. Meanwhile, Sun Cheol, knowing Seok-do wouldn't bring the real stash to the top floor, waited downstairs and it worked. His men intercepted the real drugs and walked off while Seok-do's team was still recovering. By the time backup arrived, it was too late. Some officers tried to pursue, but Ricky's men blocked their way. The two sides clashed, but Seok-do's team was completely outmatched. After a quick beatdown, Ricky's crew disappeared with the prize. Seok-do comes to, only to find himself getting the crap kicked out of him. Ricky's leaning in, demanding to know where the drugs are, when suddenly, the phone rings. It's Sun Cheol. Cool as ever, he tells Ricky he's got the drugs, and it's up to Ricky to clean up the mess himself. Ricky was so furious, he smashed his phone on the ground. The moment their backs were turned, the sound of fists landing echoed behind them. Seok-do was already fighting back. The low-level goons stood no chance. Ricky sent in his strongest man.
아이씨.
That guy barely lasted a few rounds before getting dropped, so Ricky stepped in himself. but compared to the likes of Jang Chen or Kang Hae-sang, this crew's combat power was a joke. Seok-do made quick work of him, finishing things off with a meteor punch that could have shattered a wall. With Ricky down, Seok-do didn't waste a second. Exhausted but determined, he grabbed his gear and rushed towards Sung Cheol's hideout, tracking him through the phone hidden inside the drug bag. Sung Cheol, meanwhile, was packing his passport and ready to make a break for the airport. But right before he could hit the road, a full-speed American-style takedown by Seok-do's car blocked his path. Realizing who was behind the wheel, Sung Cheol panicked and bolted back into his office. One of his men tried to block Seok-do, bad move. One punch and he was out cold. Seok-do used the hidden phone's ringtone to trace Sung Cheol's location, kicking down doors until the two finally faced off. Turns out, Sung Cheol hadn't exactly been hitting the gym. A few solid punches and cracked broken ribs. Friendly reminder, don't skip core training, folks. Desperate, Sung Cheol pulled out a pair of handcuffs and tried again. Still didn't work. Then he grabbed a gun. Seok-do saw it coming, grabbed his wrist and calmly let him empty the whole clip into the air. But in the end, there was no escaping it. Sung Cheol was never a match for Seok-do. And Seok-do didn't need to say a word. He turned around and walked away, leaving behind nothing but a legendary silhouette.